It is my great pleasure to bookend our day here now with some words, some inspirational words from Andrew McAllister, who is an energy commissioner with the California Energy Commission. So I was chatting with him a little about the words we heard this morning from Siva Gunda, which was very helpful to kick things off. You're going to hear a little bit from me at the very end, but it is great to see you here. Thank you for coming. You've been to several of our events before, and Andrew has been very involved in load flexibility in building energy efficiency, and he has the Art Rosenfeld position. And Art, we haven't talked about Art. Art was Enrico Fermi's last grad student. He pivoted from physics to energy efficiency during the oil embargo. I had the pleasure of taking a class from him at UC Berkeley in 1983, and I've been at the lab ever since because he was a very inspiring scientist who really cared about the value of energy efficiency. And we were chatting about energy efficiency and demand flexibility and how they're related. So we've been talking mostly about load flex, but customers care about both. And but the grid needs both. It is my great pleasure to introduce Andrew. Thanks.
Thanks, Marianne. Just open my notes here on the podium here, if you bear with me. I really appreciate you, Marianne, the whole team. Kula, thanks for all your engagement, and Jing and just the whole team at LBL. It's always super inspiring. And once upon a time, I worked over at Building 90, and just in old grad school days. Great to see you, Raphael. Raphael and I both spent way too much time getting our PhDs at UC Berkeley at the ERG program, and really just I've said this before, but I just really appreciated the welcome that I got at LBL from as a recent immigrant to California from international work, and grew up in another part of the U.S. and just the sort of can-do spirit, the appreciation of diversity, the seriousness, the professionalism, the openness to collaboration, just all of those things that are manifest here at the lab. Rich, we'll see you. I mean, just the team over the years has just brought so much value to the world and the U.S. and California economy. And so it's just a real pleasure. And it's lovely to see on the industrial front the sort of synergy between the Fed and state efforts, right? Which we're not seeing as much these days as we used to. So just having those complementary investments, it means a lot. It actually sends a huge signal to the world that that we're still engaged and we're still doing this work and we're finding solutions. So just thanks a lot, and just really happy to be here. And I kind of was around, looking at David Hungerford back there, was around during the conceptualization of the CalFlexHub, and then sort of the whole RFP process, which, as you know, is pretty laborious, and then the 10-year trajectory of the CalFlexHub, and it just the number of projects and insights and the technologies and just operational understanding, among many other lessons. It's priceless. It's really incredibly important to make the progress and go where we need to go. As Marianne said, we're fully in the digital age, and energy efficiency kind of makes all of our other problems smaller. But as just an optimization, we have in California, we have the affordability challenge. Just optimizing the grid, being really careful with CapEx. Flexibility is a key resource, a set of resources really, to help unlock all of that potential. So probably nothing you all don't know. I got a little bit of a glimpse of Vice Chair Gunda's comments this morning. We're working together very closely on kind of mapping the state pathway forward for load flexibility. And as I'm sure he said, we really have three kind of buckets. And really on the two biggest ones are, really on the sort of RA and the sort of focusing on the bulk power system, supply side, shed and shift. It's really sort of knocking off the top, 50, 100, 300 hours of the load duration curve, right? And then the other side of it, the other sort of end of the spectrum, is more the day in, day out, work a day, load flexibility, taking advantage of every electrification investment, whether it's a data center, a heat pump, or a pool pump, whatever it is, a pool heater. You're taking advantage of every investment as an opportunity. to level loads, really pumping up sort of the tail of the load duration curve, improving capacity factors, getting that CapEx kind of optimization done so that we can start having some downward pressure on rates, right? Which is what we need here in California. So, and everything in between. So, part of our challenge is, so we're blessed to have a diverse state with we can learn from that diversity. We have a big messy democracy, which I love. But we have 16 climate zones. We have dozens and dozens of LSCs. We now we have a independent system operator that covers most of the state, but not all the state. And then we have which is restructured, right? So we have we have the CAISO and then the LSCs, and then there we also have the CCAs, which is another layer. And then we also have a significant number of, a couple of them pretty large, but lots of publicly owned utilities that are vertically integrated for the, many of them, and that are not regulated by the PUC, right? So they have a lot more flexibility, and they can innovate actually in a cycle that's a little more rapid. So all this is to say that there's not only not a one size fits all for load flexibility, but I really appreciate the fact that there are a few themes that we know we have to really get right, particularly in the restructured environment. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Let's see. So we have this, the DEMI, I think it's called, at the CAISO, they're sort of restructuring, sort of updating and refreshing their load flexibility effort, and that's in a market, right? That's in the wholesale market. They're gonna dispatch, the economic dispatch, right? So that's at the supply side, and so that's great, right? But that's really only in the bulk market. And then we got this big seam, and we've got all these retail enterprises that are pretty diverse, and they're all across the CAISO territory. And I think that there's a lot that's being lost in translation right there. The retail rates aren't really sending the same signal that maybe the grid would want or that the CAISO would want. And then we've got the splintering of needs at the distribution level, at the individual asset level, right? So each, we talked about, the utility panel talked about this a little bit, which I really appreciated, which is you've got to have contextual, like real-time awareness of what's happening in the distribution grid so that you can orchestrate all of these loads. The possibilities are unbelievable. But we have to be able to unlock it. And that means that managing the grid in real time, likely using, certainly a lot of analytical tools and AI, over time, really, really deepening that. But, if we really are going to have a good chance, we're really going to realize the potential of delaying or even eliminating, reconductoring or line replacements and that sort of thing. That's how we have to manage the distribution grid. And that distribution grid level, I think, is really our big challenge, and making sure that the customer sort of has the, whether it's a rate or a program, likely some combination of the two. I like a lot about what SMUD's doing. I think that PG&E talked about that in the utility panel, that they're understanding now that a rate, it's not all about the rates, right? You can go so far with rates, time of use, a little more exquisite than that. But then you really have to layer in programs and target customers and figure out how you're really going to harvest the opportunities in a way that's going to get that reaction. And automation is really key to that. So all this is to say, Mark, man. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, my job here is to keep you all here until peak rush hour. So anyway, this is getting a little weedy, but I'm really passionate about this, and I think the platform that CalFlexHub and now it's so cool that the industrial sector is now going to get its due treatment and engagement. If this is going to happen, there's a lot of cool stuff happening around the country. Now, we certainly don't have a monopoly on any of this, and partly it's because our utilities, our size and our utility diversity and our just regulatory complexity, the structure of it is complex. But I do think that the brain trust to get this done is here in California, and all the different initiatives and projects and programs and learnings are going to feed at some point to feed an ecosystem that really does have a reliable set of ASPs and under clear direction from the utilities and the LSEs, with a mandate from the PUC and the regulatory bodies over the POUs, and we're going to get there. I think we need kind of a challenge to understand what that's going to take and really get it done, because like overcoming these seams and having like they're two like fundamental, the situational awareness, whether it's programs, rates, combination of those, the programmatic initiatives. But in order to be effective, all the different players in that chain of sort of custody of decision making around from a individual load all the way up to the bulk power impact of that load, that managing that load, there's got to be easy, very transparent flows of data, awareness, visibility into the grid operational, moment, right? And currently there's a complete misalignment with the CCAs. I think the MCE, sort of indicated that CCAs are like they're throwing their procurement. They procure for like half of the load of the IOUs, and they're basically throwing their procurement into the day-ahead market, and then like holding on by the skin of their teeth, like white knuckling it the next day because they don't have access to the spot market. And if they overbid, they have to suffer that, cost increase. And if they underbid, then they've overpaid, or the procurement has cost them more than it would have had to. So if we lean into flexibility without solving that visibility problem, we're gonna force additional costs into the system. We're not going to save any money. And so I think that the challenge to the investor and utilities is to figure that out and really lean into the data awareness, the data access, facile data access. And the PUC obviously has to have a role in that. But I think we're all kind of tired of hearing that like, oh, our data tools are old and we need to refresh them before we can do any of that. That's just not acceptable. So I think, anyway, that my role as a regulator is to be the heavy on that. And I'm willing to play that role. I'm going to be nice about it, but I'm not going to give up. But I think that is a sort of systemic, long-standing limitation of how we're doing things in California that is holding us back. And we have got to fix that. That's a must-have. It's not a nice-to-have. So that just the collaborations are great. I mean, I really loved that you were all, I think the CCAs are kind of learning how to operate within their context, their regulatory context. But if you look at the sort of origins of the CCAs, they're supposed to be these boundary meters that would give them that visibility, and those, for the most part, as I understand it, are not there. So there are tools we have. There's permission that we have from the PUC already to get that done, royal we. But I think we need to really lean into it and fix it, and that's going to require getting together periodically, routinely, often, and just figuring it out, nuts and bolts. So let's see. I guess the 7,000 megawatt goal, we're in 2026. We need to get there by 2030. We're about halfway there. I think if we can solve some of these problems and really get sort of get a common set of tools, the interoperability problem, there's sort of a bunch of sort of barriers to getting there. But I think there's the collaboration and the like real-time common understanding of what's happening out there in the grid, and understanding that has a lot of issues, with cybersecurity. Obviously, we have to be safe. We have to do that in the right way. But if we can do that, I think the solutions that are out there, the technologies that are out there, ones that we're developing at the CEC in the flexible demand appliance standards, the load management standards, was happy to see Midas up there. We're going to keep improving that, and hopefully it can be part of the solution as well for automation, real-time rates and automation of demand response and load flex generally. But I really think by 2030, we ought to be blowing that goal out of the water. I mean, if we have 18,000 megawatts of vehicles, of EVs capacity, of battery capacity roaming around on the streets right now, if we could harvest a couple of gigawatts of that, that'd be a game changer. And the PUC is doing some interesting things on that. We're funding a bunch of R&D and sort of business model development. So I think that's really a tip of the spear where we can get a lot of demand, bidirectional, really flexible. I think that actually is that's driving our load growth right now, and it's also, I think, the biggest potential for distributed, grid support. But so there's some wins out there that we can get in the near term, but we got to solve these structural problems. And, Energy Commission is going to keep funding solutions and partnering with all of you. And, however we can make that happen. We want to continue to learn and grow together. And I really think I would like to see California by 2030 just really having a menu of solutions, a reliable grid, having turned the corner on cost and bills to really get some downward pressure on rates happening with this class of resources that we're developing, a new kind of out of thin air that has incredible potential to help Californians and really boost our economy. So really, all that is to say, thank you to all of you for all the engagement. This has been a long journey, but it's totally been worth it. And I think the next steps in the industrial ag water sector and all the other classes that we'll continue to develop research on, to fund research on and develop new solutions. All that will continue in earnest. And so just really looking forward to continuing the collaboration. So thanks, Mary Ann, and thanks, team. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'll just say a couple quick remarks before I say all my thank yous. Thank you, Andrew, first. So today we have gone through the basic methods and findings from CalFlexHub. We've showed you that in hundreds of locations and in hundreds of EVs, we've demonstrated the ability to take an hourly price and respond. That's not easy, but we did it in many sites at some significant scale. We understand that these technologies aren't going to scale in the current context unless we develop more clear incentives for the customers and for the folks that deliver the technologies. So we need to continue to partner with the utilities and the regulators, the CCAs, the public utilities, the IOUs, to help develop a path forward, whether or not it's through a continuous dynamic pricing or some other sort of programs that use the hourly flex capabilities of these devices. They exist. I remain concerned about costs and benefits because they can be cost effective, but we need to continue to study that. We need to continue to collect the data and the persistence of savings, which we talked a little about. That is an unknown because we know the devices in your homes change and the devices in larger buildings change, and you may use your EVSE or your EV telematics, and those are different ways to communicate with the EV. So there's a lot of ifs here. So I really appreciate everybody coming today and spending the day with us. Thank you to the 47 people still online joining us or many of you in the room are probably, so we'll discount it a little. So thank you. Thanks everybody. This was really helpful for us, and we want to continue to work with you to move forward and to help the state reach these goals, because it's going to make electricity more affordable and the grid more reliable and the customers happier with the energy systems here. And we don't want to build the grid out without understanding, are we doing as much as we can on the load side? And we've known that for decades here in California. So I want to thank everybody. I want to stand up, Jing Jing, and take a bow. Jing Jing has been. Thank you, Jing Jing. I want to thank all the LBL team, but Jing Jing has literally nights and weekends for 5 years been putting all this together and making it all happen. Kula's been with her the whole time. Thank you, Kula. And again, all the Momentum team, but Kula's been here with us the whole time. And thank you to Matt and to Momentum. It's been great. And now thank you to all the CalFlexHub partners. Raise your hand if you're one of our active partners. Look, thank you. I mean, we couldn't have done it without having a great set of partners, because we've been asked a lot of you, human subjects. Margaret Taylor helped us do all of our human subjects. That's a heavy lift. We want to make sure that there's no risk to the sites. They understand what they're getting into. That's a lot of customer engagement processes. Olivine, phenomenal work, helping us with the price server and getting in the field. UC Berkeley, Teresa's still here. UC Davis has an incredible team. Thank you to the UC Davis team. John and all our partners. We want to thank you so much And we look forward to continuing to work with you. So enjoy your evening and thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.